Good evening and welcome to this September 2023 mock exam for SBR. So I'm going to be taking you through this question which covers the new changes in SBR where you are required to present some of your answers in Excel spreadsheets. So this is the front of how, when you open your question paper, on your left side you have the exhibits. You have the different exhibits. So all you need to do to get to the exhibit is you click on the respective exhibit. As you can see, we've got 5 exhibits here. Then you have options of how to present your answers, either in word processor or spreadsheets. Although where the question specifies that you use a spreadsheet, then you don't have a choice there, you need to follow the instructions. On the right side you have the introductory. So let's quickly read the introduction. Firstone cooperates in the agri-food industry and owns shares in a number of companies. The group's current financial year end is 30 June 2021. The following exhibits available on the left-hand side of the screen provide information relevant to the questions. Then they tabulate what each exhibit is all about. The first exhibit is about foreign currency transactions, provides information about 2 transactions denominated in the Henny dollar. The second exhibit provides a forward contract, provide details of a hedge against a future purchase. Of an item of plant in a foreign currency. Exhibit 3, acquisition of ESCO. This explains the acquisition of ESCO on 1st January 2020. Exhibit 4, further information, provides further information about the draft consolidated statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, included in pre-formatted response option in Exhibit 5. Then Exhibit 5 is a draft consolidated statement of profit and loss and other comprehensive income, which is a draft consolidated statement of PL and other comprehensive income for the year 30 June 2021. Then it further goes to say this information should be used to answer the question requirements within your chosen response options. These are the chosen response options there. But so, before you read the exhibit, I recommend you get to understand what the task is. So go and read, let's go and read task 1. Task 1 says using exhibit 1, calculate the exchange differences to be included in the consolidated financial statements for the year ended 30 June 2021, explaining how each should be presented. Like I've said before, do not waste your time reading the other requirements. Unless you are not comfortable with the first requirement, but if you are comfortable, go ahead and read the exhibit. Reading other requirements is a waste of time because you cannot answer two requirements at the same time. So let's read the exhibit. Let's read the exhibit for question A1. Exhibit A1 goes as follows. Read, during the year ended 30 June, FCO entered into 2 transactions denominated in the Hen dollar, the currency of Henland. On 1st July 20X0, the company agreed a 90% equity shareholding in Elco, a supplier, giving rise to goodwill of 6.1 million HD. For the purpose of calculating goodwill, the non-controlling interest was measured as a proportion of net assets. The net asset of Elco had a carrying amount equal to their fair value of 49.9 million HD at the acquisition date and a carrying amount of 56.3 million HD at 30 June 20X1. There you go. This time goodwill has been calculated for you. What they're asking you here, you are given 2 dates. The date when the acquisition was done, since we acquired 90%, we know we've got control. Then they give you the end of the year, which is 12 months later. So what are you required to do? From knowledge, we know that goodwill is an asset. And according to the foreign currency standard, assets should be translated at the date of acquisition and retranslated at the year end to determine whether there will be a gain, an exchange gain or an exchange loss. You need to know from knowledge again where the exchange differences go. Under foreign exchange, there are some gains which go to P&L and some gains which go to OCI. So you need to distinguish the 2 types of gains. To recap from knowledge, all transaction exchange differences go to profit and loss, and all translation exchange differences go to OCI. So we need to translate. You are given the exchange differences. The rates of exchange between the dollar and the HD are given as follows. You are given the respective dates and the exchange rates. You are further told neither FCO nor ECO has recognized any amounts in respect of exchange gains or losses in their individual financial statements. ECO has otherwise translated its financial statements in accordance with IFRS accounting standards. So we are going to translate the goodwill on 1st July using HD 9.2, and then on 30th June 20X1 we translate using HD 10. So goodwill is initially recognized, translated as acquisition date, exchange rate, as explained, and then subsequently retranslated at the closing rate at each reporting date, giving rise to an exchange difference. So on 30th June, the goodwill in dollars was 663,000. Translated there at 9.2, and then at the reporting date translated at 10, the goodwill is now 6.10. Since it's an asset, our asset has reduced in value, so there's an exchange loss of $53,000. Exchange losses, the exchange loss is recognized as OCI in the consolidated statement of profit or loss and OCI. Since recognized goodwill is attributable only to FCO, because we are told that for the purpose of calculating goodwill, the NCI was measured as a proportion of net assets, meaning the goodwill calculated only belongs to the parent. So this gain, this exchange loss rather, will only affect the parent. So the debit balance on the foreign exchange reserve in the consolidated statement of financial position will therefore increase by $53,000. That's the foreign exchange reserve. We move to the next there's somewhere where we're told there are 2 points given. So we're done with the goodwill. We go to the second point. On 12th June 20X1, within our reporting year, FCO purchased goods for resale on 60 days credit from ECO, an unrelated company, at a cost of 430,000 HD. At the year end, the amount has not been paid. This is a payable. We've bought goods which we have not paid for. So on 12th June, we need to record our double entry, a liability and a purchase. Then at the end of the year, the liability should be retranslated as per IAS 21 to determine whether our liability has increased in value or has reduced in value. We use the spot rate on 12th June when the transaction took place. So the 430 is translated at 9.8, and then retranslated on 30th June at 10. So on the foreign currency purchase is initially recognized on the transaction date, 12th June, translated at the spot exchange rate on the date that the transaction took place. So the 430,000 HG in dollars translates to 43,878 US dollars. So we do our double entry, debit purchases, credit payables, 43,878. Then at the reporting date, the payable, being a monetary item, is retranslated at the closing rate of 10, which gives rise to an exchange gain of 43,878 rather, since our payable has reduced now. If we are to pay on 30th June, we'll pay $43,000 instead of 43,878. So there's a gain of 878. Being a transaction item, the gain is recognized in profit and loss. So we debit our payables to reduce our liability, credit exchange gain in the profit and loss. This has been rounded to 900. Take note, I think there was an instruction somewhere. You are not allowed to round off, even if there is no instruction, but instead do put a note where you decide to round off, but make sure that you stick to the rules of rounding off. If you can't remember the rules of rounding off, then please do not round off. We move to the next and last item, in A1. We also have a third one here, the net assets. The net assets of ECO had a carrying amount equal to their fair value of 49.9 million at the acquisition, in the carrying amount 56.3 million at 30 June 20X1. In the tutorial, I shared this pro forma, and this pro forma requires that on translation of net assets, you translate the closing net assets at the closing rate, and then you less that from the opening net asset as translated at the time these assets were either at the historical rate. We are given two dates. Which data will give you the net assets? Okay, this is our subsidiary. 1st July, and then we'll go to 30th June. So the rate on 1st July is 9.2, and the rate on 30th June is 10. So you first translate the 49.9 using the 9.2 rate, which gives us 5,423,900 US dollars. That is the opening rate. This translated at the closing rate, they are now 4,990,000. In being assets, we can see that they've lost value by $433,900. But these assets also, at the end of the year, in HD, they are now 56.3 million HD. So there's a gain in value from 49 to 56. So you get the difference, the gain in value. Now, this gain in value happened during the year. Therefore, the exchange rate to use, because it's over time, it's not that the gain was just an abrupt gain. The gain is over time, over a period of 12 months. So the rate to use is the average rate. So you translate the gain at the average rate, which gives us 6,882. And then this gain, you translate it at the closing rate, which gives us 640. So again, we see that the gain has reduced in value by 48.2 48,200. So the total exchange loss is 482,100. And because this is a translation, not a transaction, but a translation exchange difference, it is reported as a loss in other comprehensive income. So the loss is reported as other comprehensive income in the consolidated statement of profit and loss in OCI before being allocated between the group in NCI in proportion to ownership interest. So 90%, since we bought 90% shares, the NCI is 10%. So 90%, which works out to 433,890, allocated in the group, is transferred to a separate foreign exchange reserve in the consolidated statement of financial position and is reported as a debit or negative balance in equity. The 10%, which works out to 48,210, is allocated to the NCI and reduces the NCI in net assets balance in the equity section of the consolidated statement of profit and loss. So that concludes our requirement for A1. So we've done the calculation and we've explained how each should be presented. Make sure you address the question. Be systematic in your answering. Make sure the examiner can see where one question starts from and where it ends. Preferably have subheadings for each of your answers. That way you make it easy for the examiner to identify how to give you marks. Do not make it difficult for the examiner to give you marks by making your answer so difficult to read and follow. So we'll continue the question in the next recording, which is A2.